What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with a preview of the new Hakes auction lot that just got started with bidding today, May 1st, and I think runs through about the middle of May. And there are a lot of really nice Star Wars related items. There's some comic books, there are video games, there's even a VHS tape. And of course, while you guys watch my channel, Action Figures, they have both graded and ungraded, loose graded, mint on card, play sets, vehicles, a really nice assortment here. And I think that this auction will be a pretty good litmus test for the health of the market. We all talk about, at least lately, how prices seem to be a little bit down for very common items. And while the items that I'm showing you on the thumbnail for this video right now, some of them are not common and some of them are very, very pricey, I think it'll be a good test to see what the market is bearing right now. And especially with the ungraded mint on cards, I feel like those tend to go for a little bit less at Hakes. And anecdotally, I did speak with a number of you privately who have sent some items into Hakes to be auctioned off in future auctions. And what I've heard from you is that Hakes is being flooded right now with new submissions for their future auctions later this year. And whether that's a sign of economic turmoil or people feel like the market is kind of topped out and prices are starting to come down and they're trying to get out now with their collections and monetize those collections. Who knows? But I do think that this auction lot, for the most part, has fairly common items. And I think we'll have a pretty good idea of the health of the market. So let's take a look at some of the items. This is not everything by any means, but I wanted to at least show you a few of the items that are now up for auction on Hakes' website. You can go to hakes.com and register to bid. Just keep in mind that whatever you bid, if you are the winning bidder, you do have to add what's called a buyer's premium. And Hakes does charge 18% plus packing and shipping. So just keep that in mind with your bids, is that you do have, to pay the buyer's premium as well as shipping and packing costs, and potentially, depending on which state you live in, sales tax. So here's an AFA 85 Atari video game for The Empire Strikes Back. Pretty great looking box art there and very high grade. Obviously AFA grades these video games. CGC grades video games. CAS does grade the occasional video game, as well as Hakes and things like that. Or excuse me, WATA. WATA does also grade video games. So if you're into that, they do have an Empire Strikes Back Atari game, AFA 85, that's up at auction. There's also a VHS tape, a sealed VHS tape. We've talked about that a long time ago in some of my videos, how that market has really taken off. It's not something I collect, but people do seem to pay big money for it. And this is an AFA 85 example of a VHS Empire Strikes Back sealed. So we'll see where that one goes. But let's dig into the action figures. One of the rarest ones on this auction lot is a vinyl cape Jawa 12-back A. That one is graded AFA 75. So they put the value code of where they expected to sell in the $10,000 to $20,000 range. I think it's probably going to fall right in the middle there, $15,000 to $17,000. We shall see. We obviously saw that vinyl cape Jawa that was a Toll Toys example on the Empire Strikes Back card that sold for big money, big money, like something like $50,000. But I don't remember the exact number, but it was a lot of money. And I was way off with my estimate as to what I thought it would sell for. But this vinyl cape Jawa is just on the U.S. card, the standard 12-back A, AFA 75. But pretty nice looking example. As you can see there on the cape there's something going on where the photos will not pop up for me. But the cape does have some discoloration. And that's a problem with some of these vinyl cape figures, is that they can get discoloration even inside the blister. Here is a 12-back BC3PO graded AFA 85, another really, fairly common item, but this is admittedly a very high-grade item. I would expect that it'll probably fall in the value code towards the lower end of the range. They put the value code at $2,000 to $5,000. I think it'll probably be somewhere in that $2,000 to $2,500 range is my guess, given that it's a punched example, but we shall see. Next up is a 12-back B unpunched Stormtrooper graded AFA 80, straight 80s for the subscores, and they put the value code of that one as $1,000 to $2,000. I think that one will probably fall in towards the upper end of that value code. There was a 12-back C Stormtrooper that recently sold on eBay for almost $2,200, but this is a 12-back B, so slightly earlier And that one was punched versus this one that is unpunched. So we'll see where that one closes, but I could easily see that one going past the $2,000 mark. Next up is a 20-back A Sand People. This is another unpunched example, graded AFA 80. They put the value code at $700 to $1,000. I don't know. To me, it's probably going to be at or above the high end of that price point. It is a 20-back. It's not a 12-back, which tends to command the big premiums, but it's very high grade. It's also unpunched with no price sticker, and there doesn't seem to be any discoloration on the actual cape for the Tusken Raider. So we'll see where that one falls out. Next up is a very desirable 21-back B Boba Fett, graded AFA 75. They put the value code at $5,000 to $10,000. I have no idea where this one's going to end up. They seem to be all over the place. It does seem like AFA items that are graded below 80 do tend to sell for a little bit less at Hakes. Usually Hakes, as we've talked about, attracts the big whales, those guys that are looking for AFA 85s, AFA 90s, things like that. So we'll see, but that one is an AFA 75, 75, 80, 85 are the sub-scores. Very nice looking item. It is a punched example. It does have that big Toys R Us price sticker there. So we'll see where that one ends up, but $5,000 to $10,000 is the value code on that one. Next up is one that's in my collection. This one is a 20-back Jawa on the rectangle French Meccano card back. Excuse my voice, I'm still sick. This one is a yellowed 80 grade, 80, 80, 85 are the sub-scores. And again, it is a punched example. They put the value code at $1,000 to $2,000. I don't think it's going to get that high, personally. Me personally, I think it's probably going to be in the $700 to $900 range. So I don't expect it to hit that $1,000 number. But, this is not a hard item to find. It's fairly plentiful. Mine's a clear blister AFA uncirculated 80 that I paid about $900 for. But admittedly, that was about a year and a half ago, if not more. But still, I think with the yellowed blister and the fact that it's an AFA 80 and the fact that it's a punched example, me personally, I don't think it gets to that $1,000 number, but we shall see. Next up is an AFA 75 20-back D Power Droid, a very nice looking example with that mail-away Boba Fett offer on the front, and it's an unpunched example. Again, I'm not trying to predict the prices on all these, but, they put the value code at $1,000 to $2,000. I think it's probably going to fall in towards the lower end of that range, maybe in that $1,200 to $1,400 range, but that's a nice looking example of the Power Droid. Next up is an AFA 80 Blue Snaggletooth, and this one has the toe dent. Nice looking example with the older style case. And I think that value code of $700 to $1,000 is probably about right. I mean, we do see some that sell on eBay for quite a bit more than that, but I think that's probably about right for an older style case of the blue snags. And there's a lot of other loose graded figures. That's by no means inclusive. There's a bunch of different loose graded figures that they're offering in this batch. Next up is a 12-inch series Boba Fett, and this one still has some, the window's still attached. It does have some wear, but the box looks to be in pretty good shape overall. And, I don't think it's mint and sealed box anymore, but it says displays fine to very fine. So probably like a 75 grade would be my guess on that. But, again, the value code of $1,000 to $2,000, again, I would be really shocked if it gets anywhere close to the upper end of that price range. And they do have a number of other 12-inch action figures available. Some die-cast are also in this auction lot. I believe they're all ungraded. This one is the ungraded land speeder, and this one is, let's see, this is the 12-back card from 1978. So this is one of the original issue land speeders, but a punched example with a price sticker. It looks to be in great shape overall. Next up is an AFA 80 31-back A Han Solo, the debut card. And this is a punched example. If I was in the buying mood right now, this is probably one I would target. Nice clear blister. 80, 80, 85 are the sub-scores. It is a punched example, which tends to maybe bring the price down just a little bit. And I think that value code of $700 to $1,000 is probably about right. This is one that's on my short list for ones I want to get mint on card, but the timing is not good for me. But that's a really nice looking example. Next up is the debut card for Yoda, the 32-back B on the U.S. card, unpunched, AFA 80. And, it'll probably be closer to the upper end of that value code of $700 to $1,000, but a pretty nice looking example. It also does have the U stamp underneath the footer of Yoda there. So that's the Unitoy example. And some of them have that stamp underneath. Some people like to have that. It's just kind of a cool factory thing. Next up, we've got the Empire Strikes Back packaging for the die-cast Imperial TIE Fighter. Always tougher to find the Empire Strikes Back packaging, I feel like, for the die-cast series. So that's a pretty good-looking example with a price sticker, and it is also unpunched. They put $100 to $200. It looks like it might have some black color touch-up. So, that's might be about right. So make sure you read the item descriptions very carefully, especially for these ungraded items, because some of them may have some color touch-up that is noted in the item descriptions. Next up is an AFA 75, 77 back A Boba Fett. We all know how expensive these have gotten, and I would imagine this one probably will sell in that $2,000 to $3,000 range. But a pretty good-looking example there. It is a punched example with a price sticker, but AFA 75 overall. And let's see, next up, there are some tri-logos, both graded and ungraded, and really nice-looking examples at that. First is Han Solo Bespin. That one's graded AFA 75+. It's got that infamous KB Toys price sticker when the Palatoy factory was going out of business. A lot of these were dumped over here in the U.S. For 79 cents or $1. And so a lot of those do have the KB Toys price sticker. So that's a good-looking example, though, of Han Solo and Bespin. And then here's the first 12 Han, made in China. And this has got the AFA 75 grade on it. So just go check out Hakes and see what they've got listed. I brought up a number of different items, but this is by no means, kind of all-encompassing. Here's an AFA 75 Leia in her Endor combat poncho on the Tri-Logo card back. I think that $200 to $400 value code is probably a little low. I think it'll probably sell in that $600 to $800 range at minimum. It would be my guess. Next up is an ungraded Tri-Logo Admiral Akbar. And let's see. This one has got minor spots of edge wear. The card is punched. It doesn't mention that the blister is yellowed, although based on the photos, it looks like it might have some very slight yellowing to the blister. So make sure to zoom in on all the photos really carefully before you bid on anything. This is a really impressive one. This is the Imperial Shuttle graded CAS 75. So that's got to be a massive box. They put the value code at $1,000 to $2,000. I think it'll probably sell very close, if not above, the high end of that price range. It's just tough to find that one. And already graded, I mean, I can only imagine what the shipping cost is going to be on this one. But that's a beautiful example of the very large Imperial Shuttle. There are several Star Wars action figure collector cases that are for sale. And I think they're all sealed. There's a C-3PO one as well as this Darth Vader example. So if you're into those collector cases, these are still in the factory packaging. Next up is an AFA 85 Luke Stormtrooper. This will be, I think, a good litmus test for the upper end of the market, because we just talked about one in a market update that was an uncirculated 90 loose graded Luke Stormtrooper that sold for over $3,000 over on eBay. And this is a mint on card example graded AFA 85, admittedly with the yellow blister and a punched card back, but that's about as good as it gets right now for those Power of the Force last 17 Lukes. And then there are also some really beautiful mint on card droids figures. Here's Tig From. That's one that always tends to go for very, very high prices. So these were made in Mexico, so the blisters do stay clear. And so you got Tig From as well as his dad, Sice From, excuse me. And the value code on this one's $700 to $1,000. But if you watch my market updates, you know that price is way too low. I bet it probably doubles that and gets close to $2,000 on that one. But very light warping to the card is what it says. But even if you assume about an AFA 75, I would imagine that this one will go for $1,500 to $2,000 pretty easily. And then finally, they also had the Droids A-Wing fighter. We all know how expensive that one is. This is not mint in sealed box, but it is advertised as complete with all the cardboard inserts. So anyway, very, very interesting items. Nothing too crazy. There are some uncommon items like this A-Wing fighter from the Droids packaging and the Droids line of toys. But for the most part, if you look at everything that's for sale in this lot of items over at Hakes, it's a lot of common items, both graded and ungraded. So I think this will be a great test to see how the market holds up in a kind of a dicey environment where prices don't seem to know what they want to do. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.